Ethan Vance had always believed that life in space was predictable. Routine missions, strict schedules, and careful maintenance were his daily companions. He had never expected adventure to find him on a remote, newly colonized planet like Zephora. With its bright purple skies and floating mist over vast forests, Zephora was beautiful, mysterious, and, as Ethan would soon discover, full of surprises. The day began like any other. Ethan was piloting a small supply shuttle, carrying essential equipment for a research outpost on the planet's eastern plateau. Zephora's forests stretched far and wide, the trees taller than any human city buildings, their leaves glowing faintly in the sunlight. Rivers glimmered with light that seemed almost liquid, reflecting the sky's strange colors. He had seen images and holograms before, but seeing it with his own eyes made him feel small and insignificant. His shuttle hummed steadily as he approached the coordinates for the supply drop. Then, without warning, an alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the control panel. Something had collided with the shuttle's navigation system. Ethan frowned and pressed the emergency override. He tried to stabilize the craft, but the thrusters sputtered. The shuttle wobbled violently before shaking free and crash-landing on the soft soil near a thick grove of luminous trees. Ethan exhaled sharply. He had survived the crash, but the shuttle was badly damaged. He unstrapped himself and crawled to the shuttle's exit. The air outside was thick but breathable, carrying a sweet, unfamiliar scent. For a moment he just stood there, taking in the alien beauty around him. Then he noticed a figure moving among the trees. It was small at first, almost a shadow, but then it stepped into the light. Ethan froze. She was not human. Tall, elegant, and glowing faintly. Her skin shimmered with colors he couldn't name. Her hair floated around her head like liquid silver, moving gently as if underwater. She had sharp, delicate features, and her eyes, enormous and bright, seemed to see right through him. She moved with grace, but there was pain in her movements, a limping gait that made Ethan realize she was injured. Instinct kicked in. Ethan dashed toward her, ignoring the possible danger. "Hey, are you okay?" he called out. The alien flinched, startled, but did not run. She seemed to understand his tone, tilting her head as if studying him. Ethan noticed a deep cut along her arm, and her glowing skin flickered weakly. Without thinking twice, he opened his medkit and grabbed supplies. "Hold still," he said. He applied a cooling gel to her wound, carefully bandaging it. The alien hissed softly, a sound like wind through glass. Ethan realized she was in pain but did not resist his help. Slowly, she lowered her arm, allowing him to finish. Ethan could feel his heart pounding. He had no idea what species she was or what she might do once healed. She was clearly intelligent and yet vulnerable. The moment felt fragile, balanced between trust and danger. When he finished, the alien finally spoke. The sound was musical, almost like singing, but the medkit's universal translator hummed softly, converting her words into English. "Thank you." "Human," she said. Ethan blinked. "You understand me?" She nodded once.
"I am Lyra."
"Of Zephora." "Zephora," Ethan repeated, struggling to keep his voice calm. "That's this planet?" She nodded again, her expression unreadable. "I am the princess." Ethan's jaw dropped. "Princess?" He swallowed. "You're royalty?" "Yes," she said simply, almost as if the title meant nothing. But her glowing eyes held an intensity that made him stop in his tracks. She looked powerful, even injured. For a few moments, neither spoke. Ethan wondered how he could have ended up in this situation. Alone on a foreign planet, helping an alien princess he barely understood. Yet something about her presence was calming, almost magnetic. "I need to get you somewhere safe," Ethan said finally. Can you walk?" Lyra glanced at him, then at the forest around them. "Yes, but we must move quickly. They will come." "They?" Ethan asked, frowning. "Who?" She shook her head as if she couldn't explain fully. "No time." With a deep breath, Ethan offered his hand. "Then let's go. I can help you." She hesitated, then took it. Her touch was surprisingly warm, and Ethan felt a strange energy pass through him, almost like static electricity but more alive. Carefully, he guided her through the dense forest, avoiding glowing plants that seemed to react to their movement. Every step was a challenge. Her wound slowed her, and the ground was uneven. Ethan's own boots sank slightly into the soft soil, but he moved quickly, determined to get her to safety. As they walked, Ethan noticed strange sounds, rustling whispers, and faint, glowing eyes peering from the darkness. Lyra's hand gripped his arm briefly, and he realized she trusted him enough to do so. Finally, they reached a small clearing where he could see the remains of an old shelter, overgrown but sturdy. "Here," he said. "We can rest." Lyra nodded and lowered herself carefully to the ground. Ethan helped her sit and examined her wound again. "This should hold for now," he said. "I can try to fix it better if we get proper supplies." She studied him for a moment. "You risked yourself to save me. Not many humans would do that." Ethan shrugged, embarrassed. "I just couldn't leave you there. Anyone in pain?" "I'd help them." Her eyes softened. "Humans are strange, yet admirable." The words made Ethan feel both proud and nervous. He had saved her life, but the implications of helping an alien princess were just beginning to dawn on him. As night fell, the clearing glowed faintly under Zyphora's twin moons. Ethan had rigged a small barrier of light to keep predators away, and he kept a careful watch. Lyra leaned against a tree, silent, but occasionally glancing at him with those luminous eyes. He couldn't help but wonder what her life had been like. A princess in a world so different from Earth, yet so full of danger. Suddenly, a distant roar echoed through the forest. Lyra's eyes widened. "They are coming," she whispered. Ethan tensed. "Who?" She shook her head. "Not now. But you must be ready." For the first time, Ethan realized that helping her was not just an act of kindness. It had thrown him into a world of alien politics, danger and responsibilities he could never have imagined. Yet despite the fear, he felt a strange excitement. He had always wanted to do something meaningful. He hadn't realized saving a life could lead to this. Hours passed, and Ethan remained awake, tending to the small fire and watching the forest. Lyra slept fitfully, her glowing skin dimming and brightening with each shallow breath. He marveled at her resilience. Despite being a princess, despite her apparent power, she was vulnerable and human-like in ways he had not expected. By the time the first light of Zephora's sun touched the clearing, Ethan knew life would never be the same. He had helped an alien princess, and now, without knowing it, he was already part of her story, a story that could change the fate of her planet and perhaps his own. Ethan glanced at Lyra as she woke, her eyes meeting his. For the first time she smiled, a small, almost shy smile that sent a spark of hope through him. "Thank you." "Human," she said again. Ethan nodded. "You don't need to thank me. But what happens now?" Lyra's gaze hardened slightly, determination flashing in her eyes. "Now, you will come with me. There are things you must know. Things only a human could understand." Ethan swallowed. He had no idea what that meant, but deep inside he felt ready. Whatever Zephora had in store, he would face it, not just for survival, but for the trust he had earned and the bond that had quietly begun between them. The jungle was alive around them, buzzing with strange sounds and colors. And for the first time in his life, Ethan realized that helping someone could lead to adventures beyond imagination. Ethan followed Princess Lyra through the thick Zephoran forest, his mind racing with questions he dared not ask aloud. The light of Zyphora's twin suns filtered through the glowing trees, casting everything in surreal colors. Each step revealed plants and creatures that defied his understanding. Some floated in the air. Others pulsed softly as if they were alive in ways humans had never imagined. Lyra moved with purpose, her injured arm carefully protected. Despite her pain, she seemed determined to reach safety quickly. Ethan did not know where safe was, but he trusted her instincts. She was graceful, yet there was a tension in her every movement, a sense that danger could strike at any moment. After what felt like hours, the dense forest opened into a vast clearing. In the distance, Ethan saw a city unlike anything he had ever witnessed. Towers of shimmering metal and crystal rose into the sky, glowing faintly in colors that reminded him of the auroras on Earth. Bridges spanned above rivers of liquid light, and flying vehicles darted between the towers. The city was alive, buzzing with energy and purpose, and it seemed to welcome him even as it awed him. "This is your city?" Ethan asked, struggling to keep his voice calm. Lyra nodded. "The capital of Zyphora. You must come with me. There is no time to explain everything now." Ethan swallowed nervously. Being in a completely alien city, following an alien princess he barely knew, was overwhelming. Yet beneath the fear, a spark of excitement kindled. He had always dreamed of adventure, of seeing worlds beyond Earth, and now he was living it, though he wished it were under safer circumstances. The city's gates opened as they approached, and guards in sleek armor stepped aside at Lyra's command. She moved with authority, and Ethan realized that this was no ordinary alien. She was royalty, and the respect she commanded was immediate. Once inside the palace, Ethan was led to a grand hall. The ceilings were impossibly high, supported by pillars that seemed to pulse with light. Holographic projections floated above them, depicting the history of Zephora, their inventions, their victories, and the many generations of rulers. Ethan could feel the weight of tradition pressing down on him. This was a civilization with rules, laws, and customs far older and more complex than any he had known. Lyra turned to him, her glowing eyes fixed on his. "You must understand, human. Your actions have consequences. Saving my life is not just a kindness here. It is a bond, a sacred one." Ethan blinked. "Bond? Yes," she said firmly. "Cypher tradition demands that one who saves a life of royalty is bound to them. Marriage is the ancient way." Ethan froze. He had expected gratitude, perhaps caution, but marriage? He had never imagined his simple act of helping someone could lead to this. His mind raced. This was not just a cultural difference. This was a life-changing declaration. I don't understand," he stammered. "I helped you because you were hurt. I didn't know this would mean marriage." Lyra's expression softened, though her eyes remained serious. "I know, that is why I will explain. But the law is clear, and it is not something I take lightly. You have earned this place in my life, human." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, overwhelmed. "I'm just a human engineer. I fix machines. I'm not ready for this." She stepped closer, her hand glowing faintly. "Readiness is not always the point. Courage, honesty, and compassion are. You have all of these. That is why the Council will accept you, eventually. But first, you must understand us. You must learn our ways, and you must choose to stay." Ethan looked into her eyes and saw sincerity, determination, and something more subtle. Curiosity. Lyra was intrigued by him, not just because he had saved her, but because he represented something rare in her world: humanity. Humans, she had observed, were reckless yet compassionate, simple yet ingenious. In saving her, Ethan had shown the best of human nature. Just then, the palace doors opened and a group of Zephoran council members entered. They were tall, clad in uniforms that shimmered with embedded energy lines, each carrying an air of authority. Their eyes scanned Ethan with a mixture of suspicion and appraisal. "Princess Lyra," one of them spoke, his voice melodic and formal. "You returned safely, but who is this human? Do you intend to bind him to you?" Lyra nodded firmly. "Yes, he saved my life. Cypherin law is clear. I declare him my intended," the council members murmured among themselves. Ethan felt their eyes on him, heavy and scrutinizing. He had faced tough exams and rigorous training on Earth, but nothing prepared him for the intensity of alien judgment. One council member stepped forward, her skin a soft blue glow, her hair like woven light. "He is untested. We do not know if he understands our ways, our culture, our people. How can we accept him?" Lyra turned to Ethan. "You see? This is why you must learn. It is not enough that you saved me. You must prove your worth to us, not through strength alone, but through understanding, respect, and heart." Ethan swallowed, feeling both fear and determination. He had not expected this. He had not trained for interstellar diplomacy or alien customs. But he could not turn back now. He had saved her life, and he would see this through. I will try," he said finally, his voice quiet but steady. "I don't know your ways yet, but I want to understand. I want to help." Lyra's eyes softened into what might have been a smile. "That is all I ask, human. We will guide you. The trials will not be easy, but they will show if you are truly worthy." The council member's gaze narrowed. "If he fails, the consequences could be severe. Zephyrin law does not bend lightly. Are you aware of this, princess?" Lyra nodded. "I am, and I accept it. But I do not wish to harm him. He is not an enemy. He is different, and different can be valuable." Ethan felt a mix of relief and anxiety. He was about to enter a world of rules, customs, and challenges he could barely imagine. But something inside him stirred. The sense of purpose, of adventure, of finally being needed in a way that mattered. Over the next hours, Lyra guided him through the palace. Ethan saw rooms filled with alien technology, glowing libraries that seemed to contain the wisdom of centuries, and gardens where the plants emitted soft, musical sounds. The city was alive, but the palace itself seemed almost sacred. Every detail spoke of history, tradition, and care. Finally, they reached a room that overlooked the city. The light from the rivers below reflected up, casting Ethan in a glow that made the scene feel otherworldly. Lyra turned to him, serious once more. "You will face challenges, Ethan. Some will test your courage, some your mind, some your heart. This is how we honor those who save lives. And through it you will learn what it means to be part of Zephora." Ethan nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her words. "I understand, I think. I will do my best." She studied him for a long moment. "That is enough for now. Rest. Tomorrow the council will present your first trial." Ethan's heart raced. He was exhausted from the crash, from the journey through the forest, and from the overwhelming realization of what was happening. But despite the fear, a spark of excitement remained. He had helped her, yes, but now their journey had only begun. And in the strange glow of Zephora's twin suns, he felt the first threads of connection with the alien princess. A bond formed through courage, compassion, and a shared moment of humanity. As he lay on the soft, glowing floor, Ethan looked at Lyra, who was gazing out at the city with quiet determination. He realized one thing: he could not turn back. Whatever trials awaited him, he would face them, not just for himself, but for her, and for the world he was beginning to understand. The night passed with the palace alive with quiet hums of energy, floating lights, and the faint sounds of distant creatures. Ethan closed his eyes, knowing that tomorrow his life would change forever. Not just because he had saved a princess, but because saving her had brought him into a world of honor, tradition, and unimaginable adventure. And somewhere deep in his heart, he wondered, would he truly survive the trials? And could he find a place in a world so different from his own? The morning sun spilled over Zephora's glowing city as Ethan stood in the grand hall of the palace. Today was the beginning of the trials, a series of challenges designed not to harm him, but to show whether he was truly worthy of the bond with Princess Lyra. He had expected a formal greeting, perhaps a simple ceremony, but what awaited him was far more daunting. Lyra approached, her glowing presence bright against the colorful backdrop of the palace. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm but firm, "these trials are not easy. They test courage, intelligence, and heart. They are not meant to scare you, but to show us who you truly are. Are you ready?" Ethan took a deep breath, straightening his shoulders. I'll do my best. I don't know your ways yet, but I want to learn." Lyra nodded approvingly. "Then we begin." The first trial was set in the Chamber of Illusions, a large room filled with shifting lights and holographic projections. At first glance, it looked like a maze made of light, with glowing pathways that changed constantly. The council explained that Ethan would need to navigate the chamber, avoiding traps, and reach the center where a crystal pedestal held a glowing orb. The orb represented trust, the foundation of any bond in Zephyran culture. As Ethan stepped inside, the floor beneath him shifted subtly, glowing patterns swirling like water. He paused, realizing that he had to move carefully, observing the paths and anticipating changes. One wrong step could send him back to the beginning. He focused, letting his instincts guide him. He remembered his work as an engineer, how he analyzed systems, predicted malfunctions, and solved problems. Slowly, carefully, he began to navigate the maze. Holographic walls appeared suddenly, then vanished, and shadows flickered along the edges. He felt a twinge of fear, but he reminded himself of Lyra, waiting and trusting him. Hours seemed to pass, though in reality it was closer to half an hour. Ethan's mind worked faster than ever, combining logic, observation, and intuition. Finally, he reached the center. The glowing orb floated above the pedestal, radiating warmth. He reached out, and the orb shimmered, reacting to his touch. A soft chime echoed through the chamber, signaling success. Outside, Lyra and the council watched. Lyra's eyes shone with pride. "You have courage and clarity, Ethan. That is the first step." The second trial was one of intellect. Ethan was led to the Library of Light, a vast chamber where shelves of floating books glimmered in midair. Holographic projections of Zephyran history hovered above the shelves, and the council explained the task. He had to solve a series of puzzles and challenges using logic, observation, and reasoning. The first puzzle involved matching symbols that represented Zyphora's historical events. Ethan realized that the symbols were not random. They followed a timeline of cause and effect. Slowly, carefully he connected them, arranging them correctly. Next came a puzzle that required him to operate an alien device, twisting and rotating components in 3 dimensions. The device hummed and glowed, responding to his movements. At first, Ethan felt frustrated. The logic was unlike anything he had encountered on Earth. But he recalled his experience repairing machines and technology, and methodically, he began to experiment. After several attempts, the device clicked into place, emitting a soft glow. Finally, the library presented a challenge of communication. A small floating creature appeared, emitting light pulses. Ethan needed to interpret its patterns and respond appropriately. He observed carefully, noting the rhythm and changes, and responded with sequences that mirrored the creature's pulses. Slowly it settled, spinning gently before disappearing in a burst of light. Lyra watched closely. "You are learning quickly, Ethan. Intelligence is not just knowing facts, but understanding patterns, relationships, and life itself." Ethan smiled, though he was exhausted. Each trial was harder than the last, and yet he felt a sense of purpose growing within him. He had never felt so alive. The third trial was the hardest, a test of heart. The council led Ethan to the Garden of Echoes, a serene place filled with plants that glowed softly and rivers of shimmering liquid. But the calm was deceptive. The garden was filled with illusions, projections of people and events from Zyphora's past, showing conflicts, betrayals, and moments of sorrow. Ethan had to navigate this emotional labyrinth, understanding and responding with empathy, not fear. The first illusion showed a young Ziphoran child lost in the forest, crying for help. Ethan's heart ached. Without hesitation, he guided the child safely through the illusionary forest, speaking softly and encouragingly. The child's face glowed with gratitude before disappearing. Next came a vision of 2 rival leaders arguing, ready to go to war. Ethan saw the pain in their eyes, the fear, the misunderstanding. Drawing on what he had learned from his own life on Earth, he spoke calmly to both leaders, finding common ground and showing them a way to reconcile. Slowly the illusion shifted and the tension melted. Finally, the garden tested his understanding of Lyra herself. Projections of her struggles, fears, and responsibilities appeared. Ethan realized that to succeed, he had to show compassion and understanding for her burdens, not just admire her bravery. He spoke to the illusions, acknowledging the weight she carried and offering support. The images shimmered, then vanished. Lyra stepped forward, her glowing eyes filled with pride. "You have heart, Ethan. You care not only for yourself but for others. This is what makes a human remarkable." Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. He had faced challenges that were alien in every sense, yet he had succeeded not through strength or cleverness alone, but through empathy, courage, and persistence. For the first time, he felt a true connection to this world, not as an outsider, but as someone who could belong. The council members murmured among themselves, clearly impressed. One of them, the blue-skinned woman, spoke. "He has passed the trials with courage, intelligence, and heart. Though untested in many ways, he has shown qualities that are rare even among Zypherans." Lyra turned to Ethan. "You have done well. These trials were only the beginning, but you have proven that you can adapt, learn, and care. That is what matters most." Ethan felt a surge of relief and pride. He had expected the trials to be purely physical or technical, but they had challenged every part of him, his mind, his emotions, his instincts. And somehow he had succeeded. As they walked back to the palace, Ethan looked around, seeing the city in a new light. He was no longer just a visitor. He was part of the story now. The people he passed bowed or nodded respectfully, recognizing him not just as a human, but as someone connected to the princess. Lyra glanced at him. "Tomorrow you will meet the council formally. They will decide whether to honor the bond fully. But for now, rest. You have earned it." Ethan nodded, feeling exhaustion settling in, but also a deep sense of satisfaction. He had faced the unknown, overcome fear, and earned respect in a world completely different from his own. As night fell, the palace shimmered with light, and Ethan sat quietly, reflecting on the day. He thought about the trials, the illusions, the puzzles, and the challenges of the garden. Each had tested him in ways he had never imagined, yet he had learned something about himself, about courage, empathy, and the human capacity to adapt. Lyra approached, sitting beside him. "You have done well, Ethan. Not everyone could have faced what you did. I am proud of you." Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "Thank you, Lyra. I didn't know I could do it. But I wanted to try, for you, and for this world." She looked at him, her glowing eyes softening. "You are not just a human who saves lives. You are someone who can be trusted, someone who can understand Zyphora, and someone who can make a difference. That is why these trials mattered, and that is why I need you." Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. The bond they had formed through these challenges was real, stronger than he could have imagined. It was no longer just about tradition or duty. It was about mutual respect, trust, and a shared journey into the unknown. As the stars of Zyphora twinkled above, Ethan realized that his adventure had only just begun. The trials had tested him, but they had also opened the door to a new life, a life filled with challenges, discoveries, and the promise of something extraordinary with the alien princess who had changed his world forever. And deep inside, he knew one thing: he was ready for whatever came next. The morning sun rose over Zyphora, casting light across the glowing towers and shimmering rivers. Ethan Vance felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had passed the trials of courage, intellect, and heart, earning respect from the council and admiration from Princess Lyra. Yet, he knew that life in this alien world was far from predictable. Zyphora was a beautiful planet, but beauty often concealed danger. Lyra greeted him in the palace garden. Her glowing eyes reflected concern. "Ethan," she said softly, "there are whispers of trouble beyond the capital. Forces from outside our borders are moving. They seek to capture me, or worse." Ethan's stomach tightened. He had hoped that surviving the trials would be the hardest part. Outside forces? Who are they? He asked. "They are a faction from a distant star system," Lyra explained. "They fear Zyphora's technology and want to control it. If they succeed, our world will fall into chaos, and they will not hesitate to harm anyone in their way." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we have to stop them," Lyra nodded. "Yes, but we must be careful. This is not just about defense. It is about strategy, and courage alone will not win this fight." The council quickly convened, bringing together Zyphoran leaders, engineers, and strategists. Ethan was allowed to join the discussion, a privilege he had never expected. Maps of Zyphora and neighboring star systems hovered in midair, showing projected troop movements and possible attack points. Ethan noticed the technology of Zyphora was unlike anything he had seen. Defensive drones hovered silently, energy shields shimmered over strategic points, and vehicles capable of flight moved with precision. Yet, despite the advanced technology, the council sought his human perspective. "You understand basic tactics," a council member said. "Perhaps your perspective can help us see what we do not." Ethan took a deep breath. "On Earth, sometimes the simplest approach works best. We create decoys to confuse the enemy, set traps that force them into predictable paths, and use the environment to our advantage." Lyra looked at him with a mixture of surprise and respect. "Your methods? Simple yet effective. Perhaps this is what we need." Within hours, Ethan was helping the Zyphorans prepare. He suggested placing energy traps along likely enemy routes, using the dense forest to hide defensive units, and employing small, fast vehicles to strike unexpectedly. Zyphoran engineers adapted his ideas, integrating them with their advanced technology. As the preparations continued, Ethan and Lyra trained together. Lyra's combat skills were remarkable, swift, precise, and graceful. Yet she was also a brilliant strategist, analyzing every possibility with sharp intellect. Ethan realized that her bravery was not just physical. It was mental, emotional, and unyielding. "Ethan," Lyra said one evening, as they stood overlooking the city, "you have learned our ways quickly, but battle will test you in ways the trials did not. Are you ready?" Ethan nodded. "I will do whatever it takes. For you, for your people, for Zyphora." The first signs of attack came as the suns began to set. Dark ships appeared on the horizon, moving silently and quickly toward the capital. The alarms blared and the city went into immediate alert. Ethan's heart pounded as he saw the forces he had been preparing for finally arrive. Lyra's voice rang out, calm but commanding. Defend the city, protect the people, and trust in each other. The battle began. Ethan moved alongside the Xipheran defenders, coordinating traps and directing drones. The enemy was advanced, but they had underestimated the combination of Xipheran technology and human ingenuity. Ethan's simple tactics disrupted their formations, forcing them into traps that immobilized many of their ships. Lyra led a squad of elite warriors, her movements precise and deadly. Energy blades glowed as they struck down invaders, while her strategy guided units through the chaos. Ethan watched in awe, realizing that she was not just a princess. She was a leader born for moments like this. At one point, a group of enemy soldiers broke through a perimeter and moved toward the palace. Ethan and Lyra confronted them together. He used his quick thinking to collapse a bridge, cutting off their advance while she disarmed and subdued the invaders with expert skill. Side by side, they formed a team, human intuition and alien precision blending perfectly. The battle raged on for hours. The city shook with energy blasts and the sky glowed with the light of combat. Ethan found himself exhilarated despite the danger. Every decision, every move mattered. He was no longer just a visitor. He was an active participant in the defense of an entire world. During a critical moment, Lyra was cornered by a heavily armored enemy. Ethan rushed forward, using a combination of traps and quick thinking to distract the attackers. Lyra seized the opportunity, defeating her opponent with swift precision. They stood together, breathless but unhurt, their bond strengthened by the shared struggle. Finally, as the moons rose high in the sky, the enemy began to retreat. Their forces had been broken and the city remained intact. Cheers erupted among the Xipheran defenders, but Ethan and Lyra did not celebrate immediately. They were both aware that this was only the beginning, that threats could return at any time, and that vigilance would always be necessary. The council gathered afterward, formally recognizing Ethan's contributions. Your actions saved lives and helped protect the capital, one member said. You have shown courage, intelligence, and adaptability, qualities rare even among Xipherans. You are more than worthy of the bond with Princess Lyra. Lyra turned to Ethan, her glowing eyes filled with gratitude and something more subtle, admiration. You did well, Ethan, not just in the trials but here in the face of real danger. You have proven yourself. Ethan felt a mix of relief and pride. He had faced a situation he could never have imagined, fought alongside an alien princess and helped save an entire city. Yet beneath the exhilaration, he felt something deeper, a sense of connection, trust, and partnership with Lyra that went beyond duty or tradition. That evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, the aftermath of battle still evident in distant areas of the city, Lyra spoke softly. Ethan, today showed me something important. You are more than a human who saves lives. You are someone who can think, adapt, and care, someone I can rely on. Ethan smiled, feeling warmth in his chest. I just did what I thought was right, but I'm glad I could help. Lyra stopped and looked at him, her expression serious. It is not just what you did, but how you did it. You understood the people, the danger, and acted with both courage and thought. That is rare even among Xipherans. Ethan nodded slowly. I guess. I've learned a lot from you, too. About bravery, strategy, and about caring for others. Lyra's eyes softened. And that is why I need you, Ethan. Not just as a human who saved my life, but as someone who can stand beside me. Not because of tradition, but because you have proven your worth. Ethan felt his heart race. The trials had been difficult, but this shared battle, this recognition of trust and partnership, was unlike anything he had ever experienced. He realized that the bond with Lyra was no longer just about rules or customs. It was about shared respect, trust, and the willingness to face danger together. As the twin moons of Xiphora rose high above the glowing city, Ethan and Lyra stood together, looking out over the palace and the recovering city. They had faced external threats, tested their abilities, and discovered the strength of their partnership. And somewhere deep inside, Ethan knew that the greatest challenges were yet to come. Challenges that would test not just skill and courage, but the bond forming between a human and an alien princess on a world far from Earth. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of quiet pride. He had faced the unknown and emerged stronger, and alongside Lyra he was ready for whatever the future held. The city of Zephora was calm, almost serene after the recent attack. The glowing towers hummed softly, rivers of light reflected the twin moons, and citizens moved carefully, repairing minor damages and celebrating their safety. Ethan Vance walked alongside Princess Lyra through the palace gardens, the quiet night air filled with the soft music of glowing plants. Despite the peace, both knew the events of the past days had changed everything, not just for them but for the entire planet. Lyra turned to him, her luminous eyes reflecting the soft glow of the gardens. "Ethan," she said, "the Council has made their decision. You have proven yourself in every way, through courage, intellect, and heart. You are now recognized as worthy of the bond. The choice is yours." Ethan felt his chest tighten. This was the moment he had anticipated since arriving in Zephora, the moment when his life would truly change. He looked around at the world he had come to know, at the city that had embraced him, and at the princess who had taught him so much about trust, responsibility, and courage. I want to stay," he said finally. "I want to be part of this world. And I want to stand beside you, not just because tradition says I must, but because I choose to." Lyra's eyes softened, and a small, genuine smile appeared on her face. "Then it is done. The bond is honored, and it will be celebrated. But more than that, it will be built on trust, respect, and choice, and not just tradition." The next day, the palace prepared for a ceremony unlike any other in Zephoran history. Citizens and leaders gathered in the grand hall, the air filled with glowing lights, soft music, and the buzz of excitement. Ethan stood beside Lyra, feeling a mix of awe and nervousness. He had passed trials, faced a real battle, and proven himself. But the ceremony, a symbol of commitment and partnership, carried a weight of responsibility unlike anything he had experienced. Council members spoke of his bravery and ingenuity, recounting the trials and the defense of the city. Ethan listened, humbled. His actions had not been for recognition. They had been about helping others, protecting life, and doing what was right. Yet hearing their words made him realize the impact of his choices, not just on Lyra, but on an entire civilization. Finally, Lyra stepped forward. She looked at Ethan, her expression calm yet filled with emotion. "Ethan Vance," she said, her voice carrying through the hall. "You came to Zephora as a stranger, a visitor from a distant world. You saved my life, faced challenges with courage and wisdom, and stood beside me when danger threatened our people. I honor your choice to be here, and I welcome you not just as a partner in tradition, but as a friend, ally, and equal. Will you accept this bond? Not because it is required, but because you wish to?" Ethan's heart pounded. He nodded, stepping forward. "I accept. And I will honor this bond with everything I have, not just for duty, but because I respect and care for you, Lyra, and for the people of Zephora." A hush fell over the hall, then the crowd erupted in applause. Light flowed around them, filling the room with colors that reflected the planet's beauty and the promise of a new beginning. Ethan felt a sense of belonging he had never experienced on Earth. He was no longer just a visitor. He was part of a world that had once been alien and mysterious, now familiar and full of life. After the ceremony, Ethan and Lyra walked through the palace gardens, their hands brushing occasionally, the connection between them growing stronger with each step. The battle, the trials, and the ceremony had tested them both, but it had also created a foundation built on trust, courage, and mutual respect. Ethan marveled at how much he had learned in so little time. He had come to Zephora to deliver supplies, never imagining he would become part of its history, nor that he would find a bond that transcended species and tradition. Lyra had taught him about leadership, resilience, and empathy, while he had shown her the strength of human compassion and ingenuity. Together they had proven that even the most unlikely partnerships could achieve remarkable things. The following days were filled with planning for the future. Ethan worked with Zephoran engineers, learning to adapt Earth technology to their systems and sharing ideas for improving defenses, infrastructure, and daily life. Lyra guided him, explaining customs, laws, and history, ensuring he understood not just how things worked, but why they mattered. Despite the busy schedule, they found moments for themselves. They explored the city from above, riding levitating platforms that glided silently through the air, and wandered through glowing gardens filled with flora that sang with the wind. Ethan found joy in the simplicity of these moments, in shared laughter, quiet conversation, and the trust that had grown between them. One evening, as they watched Zephora's twin moons rise above the horizon, Ethan spoke quietly. "Lyra, I never imagined I'd find a place like this or a connection like ours. I feel at home here with you on this planet. It's strange but wonderful." Lyra smiled, her glow softening. "And I never imagined I would meet a human who could teach me so much about courage, kindness, and choice. You have changed Zephora, Ethan, and you have changed me." The months that followed were filled with growth, discovery, and challenges, but Ethan and Lyra faced them together. Trade agreements with neighboring star systems were negotiated, new technology was integrated into the city, and defenses were strengthened to ensure the safety of all citizens. Each success reinforced their bond, proving that their partnership was built not just on tradition, but on shared purpose and mutual respect. Ethan even began teaching young Zephyrans basic Earth engineering, helping them think in new ways while respecting their culture and knowledge. He realized that knowledge could be shared across species. That collaboration could create possibilities neither world could achieve alone. As the first anniversary of their bond approached, the palace planned a grand festival to celebrate not just Ethan and Lyra, but the unity of Zephora and the new understanding between worlds. Citizens from across the planet gathered, their eyes glowing in joy, and music filled the air, accompanied by soft lights that danced like fireflies. Ethan and Lyra stood at the center of the festival, hand in hand. Feeling the warmth of the people around them, they exchanged a quiet smile, knowing that their journey had been difficult, filled with tests, dangers, and uncertainties, yet it had also brought them together in a way neither could have predicted. Lyra spoke softly to Ethan, her eyes reflecting the lights of the celebration. "We have faced trials, threats, and choices that shaped us. But this is just the beginning. Together we can do more than either of us could alone." Ethan nodded, feeling hope and excitement. "Yes, and whatever comes next, we'll face it together." As the festival continued, Ethan looked around at the citizens, the city, and the glowing forests beyond the palace walls. He thought of Earth, of the life he had left behind, and of the incredible journey that had led him here. He realized that helping someone, an act so simple yet profound, had changed everything. It had led him to Zephora, to Lyra, and to a world full of possibilities. That night, under the twin moons, Ethan and Lyra stood together on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights reflected in their eyes, and the soft hum of Zephora's energy filled the air. Ethan felt a deep sense of peace and purpose. He was part of this world now, not as a stranger or a visitor, but as a trusted ally, partner, and friend. Lyra rested her hand on his shoulder. "Ethan, you chose to stay, and you have proven your heart. I am proud of you, and I am grateful. Together we can protect Zephora, guide its people, and face whatever challenges the universe sends our way." Ethan smiled, feeling the truth in her words. "I am ready. With you, Lyra, I am ready for anything." And as they stood there, watching the glowing rivers and shimmering towers of Zephora, Ethan realized something profound. Life was not about where you started or what you expected. It was about courage, compassion, and the choices you made. It was about helping others, facing the unknown, and finding bonds that could change not just your life, but the lives of countless others. For Ethan Vance, that bond had started with a simple act of kindness, and it had grown into something extraordinary, a partnership, a friendship, and perhaps one day something even deeper. Together, he and Lyra would face the universe, guided by trust, respect, and the unshakable knowledge that even the most unlikely of partnerships could create a brighter, stronger future. And in that glowing city on a world far from Earth, a human and an alien princess began a new chapter, not dictated by tradition alone, but by choice, courage, and the promise of what they could achieve together.